Hello, and welcome to this quarantine edition of the Spinema column. I'm Dan Tabor of Falkray and Cinapse.co, and today I'm going to be talking about the soundtrack to one of my favorite films of 2019. I'm serious. So 2019 was actually a really good year for genre film. Not only did we get Ma, which was, Octavia Spencer kills it in that movie. We also got Ready or Not, which was blissful. It was just sublime how great that movie was. We got Happy Death Day to You, which was, I didn't believe they could make a good sequel to Happy Death Day, but by taking it and turning it into a comedy sci-fi while still keeping some of the slasher elements, it was actually a rock solid sequel that almost outshines the original just because it takes that genre spin that kind of, gives it the extra oomph. Along with that one, we also got Escape Room, which is how do you make a good horror movie about an escape room? This film managed to do it, and I honestly am looking forward to the sequel. Annabelle Comes Home, and those Conjuring movies, some of them are good and some of them are not so good. Annabelle Comes Home was actually a pretty solid effort, and it was a really good surprise. What I tend to do with these movies especially is I have this weird little ritual on Friday nights where if a film isn't screened, especially a genre film, isn't screened for critics, I tend to go see them on Friday nights, and that's where I got to see this one. It was 2019's Crawl. If you haven't seen Crawl, it's about a giant alligator. I'll get more into the plot in a minute. But I have a special affection for giant alligator films. Going back to Alligator from the 80s, every time that film came on PHL 17, I have to admit, I watched it. They used to play it a lot in the 8 o'clock slot. And, it was one of those films where you kind of felt bad for the alligator a lot of the time. Well, this film's kind of the opposite. This film is produced by Sam Raimi, and that's kind of hit or miss these days because Raimi tends to put his name on a lot of things, and it's kind of watered down the solidness of a Sam Raimi produced film. When he directs stuff, it's rock solid, don't get me wrong. But when he produces stuff, you don't know. Especially like when I saw this, it didn't get screened for critics. It was a genre film produced by Sam Raimi about a giant alligator. Now, what would you do? Yeah, you'd probably think, yeah, I'm going to wait. But, since I have my Friday night thing, I went and saw it, and let me tell you, I was not prepared for the greatness that was Crawl. And, I'm not the only one. Quentin Tarantino actually had it listed as one of his top films of 2019, which is kind of insane. But if you haven't seen Crawl, it's about a woman and her father, and what happens is it takes place in Florida, and she's a good swimmer, but she's not the best swimmer. And her father have this weird relationship, kind of like I, Tonya, where, they kind of split because he pushed her too hard, and that kind of forced their relationship apart. Now what happens is there's this hurricane happening, and she goes to check on her dad. Her dad is fixing up this house, and he's in the basement, working on the basement, and he gets hurt. The water is rising in the basement and around the house, and in with the water comes some giant alligators. So what happens is he gets trapped in the basement with these alligators, and his foot's hurt, so he can't move. And the daughter comes in guns blazing, I'm going to save my dad. And you know what happens? She gets stuck down there too. And, it's one of those films where, it's not just a film about giant alligators. It's a film about this father and daughter who are coming to terms with their relationship and learning to see eye in eye and kind of fixing this relationship while also trying to escape from giant alligators. And I think because it operates on those two levels, it works really well, especially as a genre film. The film was actually directed by Alexandre Aja. He actually directed Piranha 3D, which is amazing, and High Tension as well, which has one of the best endings money can buy. So he did Crawl. So you have a solid director, and you have Sam Raimi producing, and you'd expect great things, but sometimes you don't get that. So this is the soundtrack. It was released by Mondo. It's not like a Mondo release, but Mondo is distributing it. So fans like you and I who want to get the soundtrack to Crawl can buy it. The soundtrack is actually by Max Arge and Stefan Thumb. Now, these two guys are probably better known for doing like additional music. What that means in Hollywood terms is, let's say Hans Zimmer's working on a score and he's got to go to the next film, but they need 5 seconds of score for this one piece that they just shot, and Hans Zimmer's busy. Well, they would bring these two guys in to kind of do that fill-in score. And that's kind of what they've been known for. I mean, they did score on Ad Astra. They've done score on Six Underground, or additional score Ghost in the Shell and Mission Impossible Fallout. So these guys have worked on some big films, but they have not done something on their own. And Crawl is their first film proper that they're scoring. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. The score is just as tense and just as nerve-wracking as the actual film is. And for that reason alone, it's not in my heavy rotation. It's kind of like, I'll put it in the same category as soundtracks like Maniac. Those are soundtracks that are really great, and when I want to sort of like bring back the feeling of that film, and I want to sort of relive that, and I don't want to watch the movie, I'll put on the soundtrack to those movies, and I'll sort of, listen to them. But the thing about those films is, because they kind of have that, they bring back that tense feeling, you can't listen to, like, I can't work and listen to the soundtrack to Crawl. It's just not going to happen. I get too freaked out. Funny story comparing it to Maniac. Back when the Maniac Mondo dropped, I actually didn't buy it. And I was, trolling through eBay looking for somebody that was going to sell it. I eventually found on Facebook Marketplace. And the gentleman that was selling on Facebook Marketplace had this funny little piece in the selling description, was that his wife wanted it out of the house because the music freaked her out. Crawl has kind of got the same sort of vibe. You listen to it, it makes you feel tense, it makes you feel uneasy. And like the best sort of soundtracks that go with a film like Crawl, it sort of invokes that sort of madness that Crawl does. Because the film itself is this cat and mouse game between this father, his daughter, and these alligators, as they kind of go around the basement and they kind of try and navigate throughout the basement and get out of the house. And as misfortune should befall them over and over and over again as they try. I mean, you think it's simple. I'm going to go in the basement, get my dad who's hurt his leg, and get out of the house. No. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong. And that is what's so great about Crawl. And that is what's so great about the soundtrack, because the soundtrack invokes every single piece of that. I mean, of course, you have the more sort of like tender sort of moments of the soundtrack where it kind of invokes, like, the relationship between the father and the daughter. Because they do have those moments where they reconcile their relationship. Because you kind of get the feeling in the beginning that the relationship is really strained, but she still loves him. So you've got the moments on the score like that, but you've also got the moments on the score where they're basically running for their lives and just trying to get away from these giant alligators. And the best film scores, I think, work hand in hand with the visuals. Like, you have Halloween by John Carpenter, and it kind of, it's a part of that movie as much as the visuals, the score is. And Crawl is just like that. The soundtrack evokes those feelings of tenseness, of what's going to happen next, of how's this going to end. And, the best scores do that. And I have to say, for a horror score, this is solid. If you liked Crawl, you're going to love the score. Mondo did a great job on it. You can see the back. It's got the track listing and all that stuff, Paramount. The cool thing is if you've had a Mondo release before, they do the colored vinyl. And the colored vinyl here, I mean, you got the daughter on one side and the dad on the other. And you've got this great sort of like white wax with like little flecks of like gray to kind of match the film poster, side A and side B. And the funny thing is, if you look in at the wax, it says Apex Predator A and Apex Predator B, which I thought was, I mean, a great sort of thing, because, it is the Apex Predator. And that's something they kind of, that's a line from the film. Crawl is a solid listen. I know Mondo's doing a special, or they were doing a special in this quarantine, where if you buy so much, you get free shipping or whatnot. So maybe they're still doing that. But, if you liked Crawl, you're going to love the soundtrack. Mondo, as usual, has done a great presentation here. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing. It's a great package. It's a great piece. And if you haven't seen Crawl, I highly suggest, if you like giant monster films, like if you 47 meters, it's way better than the shark movie. But if you like monster movies and you like horror movies, and maybe you were kind of like some people, like maybe a little leery because it said produced by Sam Raimi, you got to check this out. You just got to watch Crawl. And if you liked Crawl and you watch it and you like it, pick up the soundtrack. Thank you for watching this, and I'll definitely put a link at the bottom of this to pick up the soundtrack on the Mondo site. So thank you for watching, and have a great day, and stay safe.